Hashtag YOLO. The statement that summarizes a big chunk of the youth today who do whatever they feel like and don't care for what happens to them in the future, good or bad. Chances are that if you've lived a simple life and experienced a once-in-a-lifetime extravaganza of crazy adventures, but had to revert back to an even less vivid life, you'd want that craziness back one way or another. This carries throughout time, all the way back to ancient Greece even, in the days of Odysseus. You heard me right, I said Odysseus. Coincidentally, the poem that we're going to be talking about is all about Odysseus and his life after all the adventures that he's gone through. Before we start jumping into the poem, let's take a look at some of the words that might confuse you at first. Crags. In the context of among these barren crags. Crags are basically jagged rocks that rest upon an island shore. Meet. Like meat and dole. Both of these words are similar in meaning giving out or distributing, as if someone is distributing punishment to a criminal of sorts. Lees. Lees refer to the dead yeast left after the fermentation of wine. Now when Ulysses says he wants to drink life to the lees, he means he wants to get the most out of every last drop of life. Vexed. This means confused, or puzzled, or befuddled by a number of circumstances.
Ulysses. A little prophet that an idle king, by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I met and dole unequal laws unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel, I will drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone, on shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy hyads vexed the dim sea. I am become a name, for always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all. And drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the rigging plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untravelled world, whose margin fades forever, and forever will I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life, life piled on life or all too little. And of one to me little remains, but every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and vile it were, for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this grey spirit yearning and desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star, beyond the utmost bound of human thought.
This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle, well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labour, by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centred in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail in offices of tenderness, and pay meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port, the vessel puffs her sail. There gloom the dark, broad seas. My mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought, and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine, and opposed, free hearts, free foreheads, you and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all, but something ere the end. Some work of notable note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the surrounding furrows, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset, and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down, maybe we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are now we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
The poem itself is a speech made by Ulysses. He starts off on a monologue, then addressing his closer nobles and finishing with his questionably undead mariners. His new life, compared to all that came before, is horribly dull, and he makes the speech with the full intention of leaving for his final voyage. He appears to be solidifying his resolve. Tennyson's style in the writing of this poem creates a longing, yet decisive mood. Using blank verse, Tennyson is able to write it like an actual speech, without the typical restrictions needed with rhyme. Ulysses is described as a great spirit, yearning in desire, perhaps a symbolic play on the unknown life status of his mariners. He is certainly not lacking in his desires, but the diction used here embellishes the fact that this is his one final wish. By enjamming every line, Tennyson keeps the readers hanging on to every word. It keeps the poem fluid, relaxed, much like the tone of Ulysses throughout his speech. Ulysses is speaking to be heard, and heard he shall be. In the original text of the Odyssey, Ulysses is the only one to return alive. Who then is he addressing in the final part of his poem? Could they be ghosts, or more possibly hallucinations? Another notable fact is the irony of the situation. Ulysses spends a good portion of 20 years fighting and striving for his home, and yet, once he is home, he suddenly wants to leave again. The entire text of the poem is an illusion. Specifically, it points out the space between his return from his adventures in the Odyssey and the foreshadowed death mentioned by Homer. Tennyson alludes to many aspects of Greek mythology, such as the Happy Isles, more commonly known as Elysium, and the Trojan War itself, when men, like Achilles, strove with gods. When Ulysses, in line 4-5, says, "I will drink life to the lees," it is a metaphor, meaning he will live life to the fullest. The scepter in line 34 is an example of metonymy. Ulysses is not giving a stick to his son, he is passing down the whole kingdom. In line 11, when Ulysses says, "I am become a name," he means that upon his departure, the only records that the future can hold of him is his name.